morning.
Morning.
Morning. And then I want to say welcome. And then third, I want to say thank you for being here today on a Saturday morning. Most of us, some of us, do a lot of our personal issues. But I also want to thank all of the city departments that are here. This, I think, is a great idea because we're going to provide information and resources. And I think there's a development that happened this week that I think these resources, this network of organizations and departments are going to be very necessary to deal with. And with that, I'm going to let my colleague, Alderman Ray Lopez, also introduce himself and welcome.
Thank you, Alderman. I'm Alderman Raymond Lopez. I represent the 15th Ward in Chicago, Back of the Yards, Gage Park, Brenton Park, and West Englewood. And it is my pleasure to be here with you this morning. As Danny said, we could be doing a lot of other things, but I think now more than ever, we need to be talking about our communities, what's available to our communities, and how we can help better defend our communities. So I thank all of you for being here. I thank all of our leadership for being here and look forward to a great morning discussion. With that, my colleague,
Alderman George Cardenas.
How are you guys? Good morning.
Morning.
Great for us to be here. It's actually great timing, just getting from the election to here. We've been working on neighborhood initiatives a couple of weeks now, 2-3 weeks. I'm going to introduce in a minute with the mayor's team. And I think it's just great timing to talk about and unearth a lot of stuff that we've been doing at the neighborhood level and how can we improve that. And really be a eyes and ears and resource, not only that, but a group that will push this city to a new level. Facing new challenges this next 4 years will test all of us here, not just in this group, but also in the city, and what we're going to do to meet those challenges. So we're going to talk about from different parts and different organizations, different agencies of the city, their take, what they're doing on their end, including the superintendent of police, which is probably, hopefully, will be the last look to talk about safety, security, and how we're going to deal with sanctuary cities and our immigration issues that we have with the federal system. So lots to talk about, lots of questions really to be answered. This is the forum to do it right now. You guys are leaders from the communities, and please bring your best. Bring your best in questions and things that need to happen in communities to strengthen more than ever our resolve to be not just be the best, but also to really fight for our constituents and people that can fight for themselves. So you guys are here for that, and so let's get it on. Andrea Saab is the SAR of the neighborhood initiatives for the mayor's team.
SAR,
I elevated her now to a SAR because she's gonna have to be even more bold in what happens in communities in this city. And so that's the challenge she's got, and we're gonna help her meet that challenge. And you know, Andrea, you will talk about all the stuff you got for communities, neighborhoods. It's not just infrastructure, it's the programs, it's human capital that I'm particularly interested in. So, Andrea, take it away.
Thank you, Alderman Cardenas, and thank you everyone for coming this morning. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry I was a little late. I actually was here wandering around the building trying to figure out which door was the right one. So I want to thank everybody. We have been doing these meetings in the community to talk, to get everybody here so that we can talk firsthand about what the mayor's priorities are, particularly with the budget. It's going to be hopefully discussed and voted on by City Council this week. And so I'm really glad that you took the time to come out here. I really am also particularly thankful to my colleagues from the city, each of whom will have an opportunity to talk to you about what they're doing in their agencies. And then we'll open it up for discussion. I do want to begin by saying something that I think the mayor has already said this week, but I think is just critically important, as all of the aldermen have alluded to in light of this week's past election. It is just really important for everyone to understand the mayor's commitment and our commitment to remembering that our city is going to be a city true to our roots as a home of immigrant communities. We are not going to change, and we are going to continue to fight for all of our citizens. And this city will remain a city that is open to all, that will fight against divisiveness, that will be the home of places like the Star Scholarship, the only scholarship in the country available to dreamers, regardless of anyone, regardless of status, as long as you're a public school student here and you have a B record. A B average. We will continue to fight and stand up against bigotry, against divisiveness, against hate, and be an open city. And I want you to know how important that is to all of us, but particularly to our mayor. So I have to open with that because it has been, in that regard, a very disappointing week for our country. The other thing that I want to just take a few minutes to talk about is the budget and what the mayor's priorities are in terms of his commitment and what we've accomplished. So I think what you hopefully have heard already, or have heard a little bit about, but what I just want to touch on is, first of all, our city is on a much stronger financial situation than it has been in a really long time. We still have a lot of challenges. It's not perfect, but this in the past year, because of the very hard work of the members of our city council and sacrifices by everyone, we've stabilized all of our municipal pensions. And so what does that mean? That means that every one of our municipal pensions is on a pathway to sustainability and solvency. What does that mean for us? It means that we can take away attention from bleeding dollars out of making sure that all of our city employees and their benefits are taken care of, but also make investments for the future in areas where we need to make those investments. We have the lowest deficit that we've had, structural deficit that we've had in the history of the budget. And as a result, we are going to be able to continue to make investments, as you're going to hear about across. So, but that came from a lot of hard work from all of the aldermen that are here, but also sacrifices across here. We all are paying more taxes in a variety of ways, and that's the sacrifice that we have to make to get stable, but we are, and as a result, we are making more investments. You're going to hear about investments in youth and services. You've heard about, I think, about the mentoring programs that we're going to invest in as part of our public safety strategy, and you'll hear a little bit more about that today, but also investments in our programs for youth generally. We've tripled the investments the mayor has in this budget, investments for youth, from 21 million to 64 million, which is going to enable us to expand our after-school programs, to expand the mentoring programs, to expand programs for students, for the summer jobs programs for students. So as youth and youth services, critically important to the mayor and in this budget. Additionally, we have investments in public safety that the superintendent will speak to. You all know, I think, that the mayor made a major public safety speech in September. We talked about those investments into the police, including additional police officers, but additional, it's like the fire drill bell.
There's classes going on. So.
Oh, are we supposed to switch classes?
Time's up.
Time's up. Probably way more, exactly. I was ignoring that part of it. But make investments in supervisory, field training officers, and more lieutenants, more detectives, so we can focus on clearing some of the cases that we have. The superintendent will talk in more detail about that. Also investments in technology and support and investments in new training facilities. And then lastly, as Alderman Cardenas mentioned, we are making investments at the neighborhood level in terms of trying to drive neighborhood development through economic development. You'll hear a little bit about that from the Department of Planning and our Community Catalyst Fund, which we're happy to talk about, as well as other neighborhood investment efforts, because we understand, the mayor understands, and we understand that we can't solve our public safety problem just with our police force. We can't solve our issues at the neighborhood level if we don't make investments at the neighborhood level, and that's what we're going to do. So all of my colleagues here today are here to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing, and so I'm going to start with Superintendent Johnson.
Yeah, just let me make this point, Andy. So after the department speak, then we will have a Q&A for people to ask questions and address the issues that they think are important. All right.
Police department is usually first and foremost on a lot of people's mind. But to her point, just keep in mind this: no matter, we can add 5,000 more police officers. The simple fact of the matter is we can't arrest our way out of the crime issue that we are experiencing right now. So to that end, we have to invest in our neighborhoods. And to the mayor's credit, he has committed to doing just that. The mentoring dollars that he's going to put into the mentoring program, I think, is huge. But then just the capital investment that he's put into some of the impoverished neighborhoods will help immensely. From CPD's side of it, so in the next 2 years, we're going to hire 970 more police officers. So that's essentially 1,000 more. So right now, we have roughly 12,500 budgeted sworn officers, and we have about maybe 300 vacancies right now. So at the end of this 2-year hiring plan, we'll be up to 13,500 sworn officers. And that's not, the additional officers that he's giving us is not counting the ones we'll lose for attrition. So we'll be doing both of those things at the same time. So people are confused about that. So the attrition won't affect the new hires that we have at all. But to do that, we have to be really aggressive in our hiring plan and our recruitment. So to that end, we're going to have another entry exam next year. So with that, that's where you all really come in. So this last entry exam we made a real hard push to get minority applicants, because I do think that the police department should reflect the demographics of the city. Every community meeting I go into, people ask me, Superintendent, we want police officers in our communities that look like us. Well, the fact of the matter is, in order for me to do that, I have to have those people. So right now, the last entry exam, we had 71% of the applicants were minority, 39% Hispanic, and 29% African American, and I think like 3% Asian. So we did really well that time around. But the fact of the matter is, out of the 12,500 right now, the minority, I think we have about 3,200 minorities. And so it's difficult for me to put those folks in the communities that you want them in if I don't have them. So I will do it. But when we do this next hiring push, I need you all's help in pushing folks. And above all, I don't really, the way a person is wrapped up, I really don't care about, as long as they're good quality, high character people. That's what we need, who we need patrolling our neighborhoods. The diversity programs that we've put into place to give new officers more cultural awareness before they hit the streets, we're going to expand that out. I think about 2 weeks after I became superintendent, we started what's called Peace Circles, and what that is we partner up the new recruits with high school students so that they'll get to know these students as humans and who they are. And conversely, it lets the high school students know these new police officers as people. So we're going to do that. Moving forward with the hiring plan, we're going to have more supervision out there, so we're going to promote 112 additional sergeants, 50 lieutenants. Now, from today forward, when we get done with this hiring plan, we're also going to promote a total of 350 more detectives. So we'll have about 40% more detectives working in 2018 than we currently have staff right now. And that helps in solving some of these crimes that we have out here. But that's one piece of it. You all will hear me say the clearance rate is not a CPD clearance rate, it's a Chicago clearance rate. And that's because we need you all to tell us what you see out there for us to be able to solve these crimes. So that's one piece of getting the clearance rate back to where we want it. The other piece of that is for CPD to restore the trust that's been fractured over the years with the Hispanic and the African American communities. And let me just tell you all this. I'll be the first to acknowledge we have treated those communities inappropriately at times. We have. And we can't begin to fix that problem until we acknowledge that it was a problem. And moving forward, what do we do to fix it? So we are working really hard to correct those mistakes and those deficiencies. But let me just say this, the majority of the officers out there won't be defined by what happened in the past. This mistrust happened over years and over decades. So it's not gonna be remedied in a week, a month, or a year. You know, we have to keep working at it. But to that end, community policing, as you all know it, is going to change a bit once we get the new order rolled out. Community policing for CPD should be a philosophy and not a strategy. So every officer that you see should be engaging in some form of community policing, and for the most part, they do. I'll just close with this last tidbit. So I know a lot of people are concerned about the election results. Let me just say this. Chicago Police Department, Chicago is a sanctuary city. Anything that we do regarding CPD and regarding enforcement action, we do not ask people their status. We don't work with ICE. We just don't get involved in that in any form or fashion. And that will remain that way, that it will continue like that. So CPD will not be a party to anything like that. We're a sanctuary city, and we value that fact. And that's it for CPD.
The test and making sure that we have a diverse pool there. It is, we can't, as the
Excuse me,
superintendent said,
can you be louder? We
Yeah,
can't.
we can't have a diverse force if we don't have diverse applicants. And the department's done a lot of things to make that happen, including waiving the fee. There'll be no fee for this test, and also changing when and how people can take the fitness part of the test, because we have a lot of drop-off there, so they're going to make it so that people can take the fitness test in a wide variety of areas. And so it just is really important that we get people in to take the test and understand how important that engagement for them is to help us really make sure that we have a police force that reflects the city that we are. And so I'm also now going to turn down to the end of the table Commissioner Julie Morita from the Department of Health.
Good morning. And thanks for this opportunity to meet with you all. I think, as others have referenced earlier, this week was a little bit shocking to us all. And I think one of the things we made clear at the Department of Public Health is within our department that our mission has not changed as a result of the election. And our mission and our vision for the Department of Public Health and for public health in general is for all communities within the city of Chicago to have the opportunities to live healthy lives. And we remain committed to that goal and to that vision and to that mission. And so our work continues onward. I think I wanted to reinforce what Superintendent Johnson also said regarding our workforce. We want our workforce to reflect our community. And there's no better way for that and the best way for us to do that is to have your assistance in having people apply for our positions and our jobs. So it's not just the police department, but it's all city workers. So the city of Chicago hiring process requires that people apply online. And so the application process is through cityofchicago.org careers. And so please encourage people to go to the website and look for job opportunities. They can sign up to be notified for positions positions that become available so that we have a broad array of applicants. We have to go through a very rigorous process of hiring, but the only way for us to get candidates is if people put their names forward and apply for those positions. And we really firmly believe that the only way for us to really address the needs of our community are for our workforce to reflect the community. So please, spread the word about applications for the city positions. We'll continue to work with the aldermen to help disseminate that information, but we have your assistance that only helps us. The Department of Public Health is about our budget is about $152 million. We have about 600 employees within the department. And 80% of our funding actually comes in the form of grants, most of them federal grants, which are very stringent. You have to do lead prevention, you have to do immunization work, you have to do HIV work. So they're very, very well delineated. The remaining 20% of our budget is the city budget, which we have a little more discretion with. And so we were thrilled this year when our budget actually increased a bit to actually support some of our key initiatives. And so because of the support of the city, our budget increased over $1 million. And that is so that we can make drug treatments available to more people because we have such a problem with opioid misuse and also heroin problems in the city of Chicago. So we're making more treatment available in the city of Chicago. We're also making more free vision services available to students throughout the city. Over the past few years that we've invested, we've been able to provide over 100,000 children with free exams, and then over 50,000 children have gotten free glasses through this program. And so we're expanding that program to increase that by 10,000 children. So we're really thrilled about that opportunity. And then the other area where we increased our budget was in terms of violence prevention. We play a role in terms of preventing violence. And so we have some programs within the schools, within the communities. So we increased our budget to do some additional work in that area. We were also fortunate to get federal funding to support more students and more community initiatives to build resilience in our hardest hit communities. And so we'll be working with the community to establish a community institute where we're doing more trauma-informed training, restorative practices training within the communities. And so there'll be some funding opportunities related to that work within the communities. And again, we will work with the aldermen to make sure that the information is disseminated to the communities so there's opportunities to apply for that funding. I think the department in general is really, really committed to using data to make sure that decisions and our investments that we make are data-driven. We don't have enough resources to do all things for all people, so we really have to focus on those communities that have the greatest need, and the data will help us to do that. We're really focused on working in partnership with communities, with our sister city agencies, with the aldermen, to make sure that there's more opportunity available throughout the city, and that we actually have input from our partners so we can actually get the work done and do it the right way. And then lastly, we want to partner with our other agencies who are addressing things like education, housing, transportation, because we know unless we address those things, we will not be able to address or move the needle on improving health overall. So we're committed to doing those things as we move forward over the next 4 years. I think there's on the table, as you came in, materials, there's a flu shot clinic scheduled today. The closest one here is at Arturo Velasquez Institute walk-in clinic, so anybody who hasn't had a flu shot that wants a flu shot can go in and get one. We also have one at Daly College and Wright College as well, so spread the word, share this information with others. So if people haven't gotten their flu vaccine, now is a great time to get it. Flu hasn't hit us yet, it's coming, and so we want to make sure everybody's protected as well. The other thing we have information about is our Get Covered program that encourages people to get enrolled in the marketplace for insurance. And so we would encourage people to pick up the handouts at the front desk so you can get more information about those programs. But I'll stop now, and then there's an opportunity for answering questions later, and I'd be glad to answer questions for you all then.
Thank you, Commissioner.
That you can all participate in starting in 2017. And so you've heard a little bit about the mayor's public safety strategy. And part of that strategy is an expansion of mentoring initiatives. And so there is going to be a significant city and private dollar investment, approximately $36 million, to expand mentoring programs in 22 community areas. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the 3 phases of that initiative and where I think you as a community can plug into that initiative. So the first part of that initiative is an expansion into in-school mentoring, and that will be provided by an anchor organization called Youth Guidance. And I'm happy to share with you the list of schools that's expanding into this community, so I can do that offline with you. The second part of the initiative is expanding current mentoring programs that we already fund. So we're going to be expanding and executing contracts for about 12 community-based organizations, and those programs will start in January. And then the third piece of the initiative is an RFP that will be issued. It will be issued the first week in December. And that RFP will allow you to put forth a mentoring program. It can be in school or out of school to expand mentoring program in your communities. And so we have another community meeting that's going to be coming up on November 18th. I have a flyer out on the table, and it's going to be at Davis Park, which is 4430 South Marshfield Avenue, where we'll give a lot more specifics, but I'm also happy to talk online, or you can email or call me about this initiative. And we're hoping to fund about 22 organizations in specific community areas that can really start their in-school and out-of-school mentoring starting in about March or April. The second thing I want to talk to you about is One Summer Chicago. And so Deputy Mayor talked about the mayor's significant investments in that program. So how many of you know about the One Summer Chicago program? Okay, this is good, right? So it's the summer jobs program for young people age 14 to 24. So under the mayor's leadership, the program has grown from 14,500 jobs to this summer, a record number of young people receiving employment, 31,435. So that's great. So we have received an additional $2 million this summer to provide additional summer jobs opportunities. So that application for young people will open up in March. You'll be getting flyers and information. We send a lot of information to schools. In addition, Deputy Mayor talked about expanding out-of-school time programs. So we did also receive additional funding to increase our out-of-school time offerings in communities throughout the city. So currently, we fund approximately 150 organizations to run 230 programs. And so there may be a new RFP or an expansion of existing contracts. We're still working through those details. But in April of next year, we will issue the RFP for programs in 2018. So I encourage all of you, if you operate a community-based organization and you provide out-of-school time programs, that you consider applying for those grant dollars that would be available in 2018. Are there any questions? Are we going to hold questions to the end? Okay, we'll do questions at the end. Thank you.
Marva Hall was here, but I don't know where she went. So is there someone from City College? Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I missed you. Marva Hall from City Colleges is here, and we'll talk a little bit about the STAR scholarships and maybe a couple of things.
Actually, Marva is my colleague. She did step out of the room. But my name is Bianca Rodriguez. I'm from the City Colleges of Chicago. I'm from the recruitment department. I just want to thank the Mayor's office for having us speak about the STAR Scholarship this morning. You guys should have received by now a little pamphlet here that has the STAR Scholarship information, as well as some information in Spanish. Essentially, the STAR Scholarship is open to graduates of CPS, either charter or public schools, that have graduated with a 3.0 GPA. They must have at least a 17 on the ACT or the equivalent on the SAT, and they must also enroll in one of the City College's programs. Once they meet all three of those criteria and they actually submit an application for admission, they are qualified for the STAR Scholarship, which covers the entire cost of tuition as well as books. So essentially there are no out-of-pocket expenses to attend the City Colleges and actually achieve and earn an associate's degree. We also have university partnerships. So upon completion of the STAR Scholarship, after 2 years, they can actually advance onto one of our partner universities and actually receive additional scholarship award money. So all that information is here in the pamphlet. I know Marva is here to answer any questions afterwards if you have any pertaining to the STAR Scholarship. I want to also point out that the STAR Scholarship is a last dollar scholarship, so what that means is you do have to, applicants must apply for financial aid first. If students are undocumented, for example, that is obviously open to them as well. The process is a little different. They still need to apply for a waiver through the City Colleges of Chicago so that they can receive the scholarship. It's extremely important also to point out that they must apply. We had a few students last year who definitely qualified, but they did not submit their application in time, so they missed the deadline. So we just want to make sure that they do apply at least 2 weeks in advance of the start of the new semester.
Okay, and then lastly, I want to introduce Simi Chaudhry, who's the director of the Office of New Americans, and see if she has any additional remarks she'd like to add before we open it up for questions.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Zopp. So my name is Simi Chaudhry, and I'm the director of the Office of New Americans. And for those of you who are not aware of the work of the Office of New Americans, the office came together more than 5 years ago and put together a set of 27 initiatives to work specifically within immigrant communities and refugee communities, and largely within the overarching, so the overarching goal, right, that Chicago being the most welcoming city to new Americans. There's a lot of attention right now considering the presidential election on Tuesday, and in fact, this morning I was talking to some of our partners that are actually represented in this room on what we are doing right now to reconcile this sort of state of panic and kind of create a calming strategy so that we can support individuals that are, for instance, undocumented and applied for the STAR Scholarship, DACA recipients, right? Undocumented families that are having challenges, either with comfort going to school, children that are now expressing their anxiety of going to school. I mean, we are hearing and fielding all kinds of different feedback right now. I want to reiterate, and I appreciate that Superintendent Johnson mentioned this. We are a welcoming city, we are a sanctuary city, and this happened through a welcoming city ordinance. And the welcoming city ordinance is very specific in terms of the way that information is held securely within our city departments, and I want to commend the work that we've done with the departments to secure the information of all of our residents here in Chicago. It's very important that I stress this point because we're a welcoming city and that's not changing. I also want to reiterate that we've worked very closely with the mayors of of Los Angeles and the mayors of Mayor de Blasio in New York. And I think it's phenomenal that all three mayors, our mayor, Mayor de Blasio and Mayor Garcetti, came out within less than 48 hours to reiterate that we are a sanctuary city and we're a welcoming city. And that's not changing. And we have a lot, we're sort of in a place now that we're extending ourselves to think about it as, to use the mayor's terms, in fact, an extended family. We're here to support families, and we're here to alleviate any kinds of tension or stress that's coming out after the results. I also want to commend the work that CCC, the city colleges, have done to put out a letter also within 48 hours to families, immigrant families and immigrant youth to reiterate this point that we're a welcoming city as well. We're working with with Chicago Public Schools as well to get in a letter both in English and Spanish on Monday through email distribution and a hard copy letter that'll go in children's backpacks. The other point I want to make, and this has been an ongoing effort. I joined the mayor's office over the summer, and before that my predecessors worked quite deeply on a municipal ID program. The municipal ID program is modeled largely after the programs in New York, San Francisco, and Oakland, and the idea of a municipal ID program is a one ID that would serve all Chicago residents, and it largely comes out from communities that typically have difficulty getting identification. These are undocumented communities, homeless communities, formerly incarcerated. But it's important to remember that a successful ID program is one that everyone in the city sees benefit in. So we are working, there's already been work that's done on this. We have a very strong and active working group that has given us a list of recommendations that we have now taken one step further, and the mayor has allocated $1 million towards this program. This ID will be available next year. The ID is going to be available next year, and the implementation is in full force. So I'm happy to field any questions about this, but I want to stress that the idea of this ID is to think about it as a standardized form of identification that allows you city services that will give you, whether it's discounts on prescription drugs to discounts on cultural events. I mean, the idea really here is to consolidate an ID. So this ID would work as your library card. This ID could work as your transit card. I mean, that's exactly where we are in terms of thinking about one consolidated form of identification that anyone can get the moment that they're a resident of this city, and it unifies our city as well. So, like I said, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I do want to commend the work that our partners have been doing to create an immediate response for any questions that people may have about their safety. We've already trained our 311 staff on questions specifically that immigrant families have right now, and we're going to be issuing a statement either today or tomorrow for press to know that 311 is fully equipped to field any questions that family members or undocumented youth individuals may have in terms of their safety.
Thank you, Cindy. All right, so we're going to, and I want to thank all of my colleagues.
For some of you may know us, we focus on a variety of different things. I'll focus this morning on three major sort of buckets of our work. It's really about retaining and increasing the number of jobs, particularly in our neighborhoods, our efforts on community development, and then some of the work that we do also on affordable housing. And I'm here with a colleague of mine, Tracy Sanchez, who's a deputy commissioner in our affordable housing, or in our housing bureau. One of the things that we're really focused on right now is the industrial jobs in our neighborhoods. We know that as jobs are located closer to communities that need them, there's a greater likelihood for that hiring from the neighborhood, and industrial jobs in particular, while they have receded across major cities across the country, they are still a critical part of the economic fabric of this city. And so the department is working on that in a couple different ways. Number one, you may have been hearing about some of the conversation about changing industrial corridors. Those are on the north and northwest side, where the city is focused and the mayor is committed to, for areas in which the industrial character is shifting, to really understand that, and then also make sure that if there are new resources available, that we invest those in stable industrial corridors. So there's a lot of conversation that will be happening over the next year about how we really strengthen the industrial corridors in our neighborhoods, and some of the ones that we are focused on, particularly on the south and southwest sides, include the Stevenson and Brighton corridors that are along I-55, which has been a really strong corridor for us, particularly as distribution has increased. So as everyone wants things from, it was same-day delivery a little while ago, now it's an hour. It's going to be in like 3-minute delivery in a little bit. And so the fact that we are such a dense city helps us when everyone is trying to do distribution. So the first key for us is retaining industrial jobs with small businesses and large, but also bringing new ones. And then the last piece is the existence of jobs is not enough. We want to make sure that our workforce is connected to those jobs. That's a conversation that I know City Colleges is fully engaged with, but we also are in the department. So we know step one is getting the jobs in neighborhoods and getting well-paying jobs that people can raise families on. That step two is connecting them. And so particularly with industrial, that is a big focus for us. There will be colleagues of Tracy and mine will actually be coming to the Pilsen and Little Village industrial corridors in the first quarter of next year to continue to talk about how to strengthen industrial corridors, how to engage in terms of increased work. So that's something that's actually specific that we're working on. Another piece of our work, and my work in particular, is supporting small business development. And so we are doing that in a couple different ways. There's a number of tools that the department has. TIF is one that is well-known but often misunderstood. It's the source for any of you who are familiar with the Small Business Improvement Fund. It's a way in which we, particularly along neighborhood commercial corridors, which are our lifelines for community, where you go to grab an ice cream with your child, to go celebrate a birthday, go hang out with your friends, whatever that is, that makes neighborhoods feel like home, and we know that. And so we are working every day to support the small businesses that are in our neighborhoods, also to support minority entrepreneurs, in particular in neighborhoods of color. We have a couple pilot initiatives. One of them focuses on retail commercial corridors, and one of them has been in partnership with Alderman Lopez in Back of the Yards, where we are looking along 47th and along Ashland in that area about how we can, on a pilot basis, try out a number of strategies, see what works, pivot as we need to, and keep moving. So that's things like access to capital. You've got folks who say, look, I don't, in minority communities, have my dad or my aunt who can lend me $20,000 to sort of front fund some funding. I actually need a loan on the front end where the city can help me on the back end. So getting funding into neighborhoods and actually making it accessible is a big thing. Supporting minority entrepreneurship, and particularly in Back of the Yards, immigrant entrepreneurship, to learn how do we better strengthen that, whether that's through our regulations, whether that's through our zoning, however, in whatever way we need to do that, how do we better support that? Because while the new is always exciting, building from our ground up is equally, if not more important, and we get that. So those are a couple initiatives that we're focused on. My department has also been really focused with the leadership of the mayor on working with the community on community development initiatives. So the Paseo is an example. With the leader of Chairman Solis, leadership of Chairman Solis, we have been working on that as far as building an at-grade recreational trail, knowing, along with our colleagues in public health, how important open space and that availability is. My colleagues have also been working with Pilsen and Little Village communities on community planning. There have been a lot of conversations about housing and the interest in both, as we strengthen communities, to honor and include those who built those communities up. We hear that. We are continuing to develop strategies, particularly on an affordable housing and also small business basis, so that folks can stay in their homes, that they can afford buying new homes. So we know that that is an issue. We recognize it, and we want to make sure that as we build communities, we do it inclusively. One of the ways we've been doing that is actually with the leadership of Tracy and the Housing Bureau with some housing developments. So that is whether with partnerships with the Resurrection Project or Hispanic Housing or Casa Norte, there's been a number of efforts towards building affordable housing in that stock so that, again, folks who built the community can stay in it. So jobs, particularly on the industrial side, and small business development, some community development work, and then on the affordable housing are the main ways in which we really try to build our neighborhoods.
Thanks, Ari.